You know, there's something fascinating about the way humans see themselves. We spend most of our lives convinced that something inside us is faulty, that we are broken machines in need of constant repair. We carry around an invisible toolbox of self-improvement tricks, always adjusting, correcting, and repairing. What if the very belief that you need to be repaired is the actual issue? Picture this for a moment. Imagine a wave in the ocean suddenly becoming self-aware and saying, "Oh no, I'm not right. Look at me. I change all the time. I rise and fall. I'm unstable. I must fix myself. I should be more solid and consistent." It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? The wave is already perfect, exactly as it is. It doesn't need to become more of a wave. It is the ocean taking form as a wave. But in the human world, we do the same thing. We act as if something natural in us needs correction. We've been told a story all our lives. The story says you are flawed, that you have problems to solve and areas to improve, that if you just find the right teacher, the right method, the right philosophy, you will finally fix yourself and become who you're supposed to be. This story runs deep. It's woven into our culture, our families, our education, even our religions. We accept it without question. We see ourselves as unfinished drafts waiting to be rewritten into perfection. But what if that story isn't just wrong? It's completely backwards. Let me say something that might offend the self-help industry. You were never broken. You were never incomplete. You were never a mistake waiting to be fixed. The only thing broken is the idea that you ever needed fixing. Think about how absurd it would sound if someone looked at a tree and said, "Poor thing, those branches are uneven, and the color of those leaves isn't quite right. If only it could fix itself, it might one day become a real tree." No one says that. The tree is already magnificent as it is. It's not trying to be something different. It grows, it changes, it responds to sunlight and rain, but it doesn't judge itself. It doesn't hold meetings every morning to discuss improvement goals. Yet, humans do exactly that. We've become our own critics, our own supervisors, our own repair crew. We look in the mirror and see not a miracle of life, but a project under construction. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with learning, growing, or evolving. A tree also learns. It figures out how to reach for the light, how to deepen its roots, how to survive storms. But it doesn't hate itself while doing so. It doesn't feel guilty for not being tall enough. It simply responds naturally to life. That's the key difference. The tree trusts its nature. We, on the other hand, have been taught to doubt ours. We've been told our natural instincts are dangerous, that our impulses are flawed, that left to ourselves will ruin everything. So we created an internal supervisor, a constant inner voice that monitors everything. It asks, "Am I being productive enough? Am I doing this right? Shouldn't I be further along by now?" It's exhausting. It's like living with a boss inside your head, always evaluating, always disappointed, never satisfied. But here's the truth. That voice isn't you. It's an echo of others. It's made up of opinions, expectations, and judgments that you've absorbed over time from parents, teachers, culture, and society. You've turned all those voices into an internal panel of judges, and they now run your life. They keep you chasing improvement, comparing, and doubting. But stop for a moment and ask, who's aware of this noise? Who notices these thoughts, these constant evaluations? There is something inside you that simply watches it all. That watcher is the real you. You are not the thoughts about yourself. You are not the judgments or opinions. You are the awareness in which all of these rise and fall like weather patterns in the sky. The sky is never harmed by the storms passing through it. Clouds form and disappear, yet the sky remains open and untouched. In the same way, your true self is never damaged by thoughts of failure or insecurity. Those are just passing clouds in the vastness of your being. You might say, "But I do have problems. I do make mistakes. There are things I want to change." Of course you do. Everyone does. But here's the secret. You can change, learn, and grow without believing you're broken. Watch a child learning to walk. The child falls again and again, But they don't call themselves failures. They don't think, I'm a bad walker. They simply try again. They keep learning because it's fun, because walking looks exciting. Their growth is natural and playful, not driven by shame or guilt. There are two ways to approach change. One is from the belief that you're defective and need repair. The other is from the understanding that you're already whole and simply evolving. The first is mechanical. You see yourself as an engine needing maintenance. The gardener nurtures what's right. The mechanic struggles against defects. The gardener works with life itself. Most self-improvement methods are mechanical. We treat ourselves like devices that need better software, faster performance, and fewer glitches. We think our emotions are errors, our habits are bugs, and our personalities are outdated systems. But what if you're not a machine at all? What if you're a living organism with built-in wisdom? When you trust this inner intelligence, everything changes. You stop fighting against yourself, you start flowing with your nature. You stop trying to force yourself into someone else's version of perfection and allow your unique form to unfold. This doesn't mean giving up or becoming lazy. It means moving the way a river moves, by following its natural path instead of forcing one.
You might think this sounds like a recipe for laziness. If I stop pushing myself to improve, won't I stagnate? Won't I become complacent? The truth is the opposite. When you stop fighting with yourself, when you stop wasting energy on guilt and comparison, you free up enormous energy for actual living. Think about how much time you spend evaluating yourself every day. You worry whether you're productive enough, successful enough, improving fast enough. You compare yourself to others, chase goals, then punish yourself for falling short. Imagine if all that energy could be used for being alive, for creating, for connecting, for noticing the present moment. A person who knows they are already whole doesn't waste energy attacking themselves. They use that energy for expression, for discovery, for curiosity. They stop working on themselves and start living. Let me give you an example. Imagine sitting at a piano and judging every note you play, constantly thinking, that was wrong, this isn't perfect, I need to do better. How much joy is left for the music itself? How much focus remains for feeling the keys under your fingers? But if you sit at the piano knowing you don't have to be perfect, if you play simply because you enjoy it, the music flows naturally. You might make what others call mistakes, yet those unexpected notes might become the most beautiful part of your song. That's what it means to stop fixing yourself. It's not about quitting effort or refusing growth. It's about changing your relationship with growth. You stop treating life like a problem to be solved and start experiencing it as a mystery to live. You stop seeing yourself as a project under repair and start recognizing yourself as a living process in motion. Life is not a puzzle. It's an unfolding event. You don't solve it. You experience it. You engage with it. And here's the surprising part. When you stop trying so hard to fix yourself, many of the things that bothered you begin to sort themselves out. Like muddy water that clears when left undisturbed, your mind begins to settle when you stop stirring it with constant self-criticism. Much of what we think is wrong with us exists only because of our efforts to fix what was never broken. Take anxiety, for example. You might feel anxious and think it's a problem to be solved, so you fight it, analyze it, and try to get rid of it. But that struggle often creates even more anxiety. Anxiety about being anxious. What if anxiety isn't a flaw at all? What if it's just one of many natural weather patterns of human emotion? When you stop labeling anxiety as wrong, when you stop adding the thought, I shouldn't feel this way, the anxiety often eases by itself. You realize that emotions, like weather, come and go. You can't force permanent sunshine. Sometimes it's stormy, sometimes it's calm. That's not a malfunction. It's life working as it should. Once you understand this, you stop trying to control your inner weather. You learn to adapt instead. You don't scold the rain for falling. You grab an umbrella and walk through it. The same truth applies to personality traits you were told to change. Maybe you're quiet in a world that rewards loud voices. Maybe you're a thinker among doers. Maybe you're sensitive in an environment that values toughness. You've been taught these are flaws to fix. But what if they are simply your unique shape? What if your sensitivity, your imagination, your quietness are not defects, but gifts? A pine tree doesn't apologize for not being an oak. The river doesn't try to become a mountain. Everything in nature expresses itself fully. That's what beauty is. You have that same right. When you stop wasting energy trying to be someone else, all that energy returns to its real purpose, becoming more of who you already are. Growth then happens naturally, without inner conflict. That doesn't mean you never learn or evolve. It means your learning comes from joy, not from shame. You learn because you're curious, not because you feel unworthy. It's the difference between painting because you love color and painting because you think you should be creative. Children understand this instinctively. They don't say, "I must work on my imagination." They simply imagine. They don't try to become more playful, they just play. Growth happens naturally through curiosity, not through control. But somewhere along the way, we lost this trust in our natural intelligence. We started believing we needed external authorities to tell us who to be, what to think, how to live. We internalize those voices and turn them into a bureaucracy inside our minds. A whole system of self-management, departments of self-criticism, committees for goal setting, teams for behavior correction. We've turned our inner life into a corporation filled with performance reviews and improvement plans. And, like any corporation, it becomes less creative, less alive, more mechanical. Beneath all this structure, your original self still exists. It never left. It's been there quietly, waiting for you to stop managing it, waiting for you to notice that you were never broken to begin with. This original nature isn't something you need to earn or build. It's what remains when you stop pretending. It's what shines through when you stop trying to be someone else. It's simple. It's real. It's alive. And here's the paradox. The more you chase improvement, the more you reinforce the belief that something is wrong with you. But the moment you see that you were never broken, genuine growth begins naturally. It happens without strain, like a flower opening in its own time. A plant grows best when you stop pushing it. It follows its own intelligence toward the light. When you trust yourself the same way, when you stop fighting your own process, you grow just as naturally, beautifully, effortlessly, in your own rhythm. This is not about being passive. It's about trusting the same intelligence that keeps your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your body healing. The same intelligence that forms galaxies is at work in you. It doesn't need your anxiety to operate correctly.
Once you start trusting this intelligence, you see how unnecessary most of your inner struggle has been. You realize that life has been moving through you all along. You were never the controller, only the participant. You were never the engineer, only the expression. This realization removes a huge weight. You stop trying to manipulate every detail. You begin to cooperate with what is already happening. You start noticing that everything has its rhythm, including you. When you let that rhythm move freely, your actions become natural. You no longer act from fear or guilt. You act because it feels right, because it's part of the flow. Look at nature again. No tree tries to grow. It just grows. No ocean tries to move. It just moves. The sun doesn't force itself to shine. It simply shines. Your life is the same. The effort to control it creates friction. The moment you let go, everything begins to move smoothly again. But letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what is needed without fighting yourself. You still work, create, plan, and act. The difference is you no longer do it from a sense of inadequacy. You no longer do it to prove your worth. You do it because it's the natural expression of your energy. The mind fears this idea. It asks, if I stop trying to fix myself, won't I fall apart? That's the illusion. The self you think you must fix is a mental construction.
It's built from comparison, memory, and judgment. When you stop feeding it, it dissolves. What remains is not chaos, it's clarity. This clarity is not something you achieve. It's what you return to when you stop interfering. It's the same quiet awareness that existed when you were a child, before you learned to divide the world into right and wrong, success and failure, worthy and unworthy. As adults, we forget that we were already complete. We spend years chasing what was never missing. We buy books, attend seminars, repeat affirmations, hoping to become whole. Yet every attempt to add something only hides the simplicity that was there from the beginning. When you drop all effort to become, you discover that you already are. You are awareness itself, not the thoughts moving through it. You are the silence beneath the noise, not the constant commentary in your head. This understanding doesn't come through force. It comes through relaxation. When you stop pushing against life, you begin to see it clearly. When you stop trying to fix yourself, you begin to feel whole. You don't need to repair your past. You don't need to chase your future. You need to be present, right here, right now. Because this is where life actually happens. The mind always moves somewhere else, to regrets or expectations, but reality only lives in this moment. Every time you return to the present, you return to yourself. Every time you stop judging, you return to peace. Every time you stop comparing, you return to freedom. You'll notice something interesting when you do this. The more you accept yourself, the more you naturally change. Not because you're forcing it, but because acceptance creates space. It removes resistance. Growth happens in that space. Think about water again. You can't force it to be calm. You can only stop stirring it. When the stirring ends, the surface reflects the sky. When you stop interfering with yourself, your mind becomes still. That stillness doesn't mean emptiness. It means alignment. From that stillness, action arises effortlessly. Words come easily. Decisions become clear. That's why the great teachers keep saying, "Be still and know." It's not mystical, it's practical. Stillness lets your natural intelligence operate. Movement born from stillness is always effective because it's not based on fear. When you live this way, life becomes lighter. You stop making every situation about self-improvement. You stop analyzing every emotion. You stop measuring your worth through productivity. You begin to see that peace was never missing. It was only covered by your constant effort to find it. You were looking for what you already had. You might still set goals, but now they serve life, not ego. You might still learn new things, but now you learn for curiosity, not validation. You might still feel pain, but now you don't label it as failure. You let it pass through. The irony is that this acceptance makes you more effective in everything. Creativity increases, relationships deepen, work becomes lighter. You no longer operate under pressure. You act from clarity. You don't need to prove yourself anymore because you finally understand there was never anything wrong with you. The whole time, you were simply learning how to stop resisting your own nature. And once you stop resisting, you realize something simple but powerful. You were never broken. You were always complete. You just forgot to notice. When you finally stop trying to fix yourself, life opens in a new way. Everything feels simpler. The air feels lighter. You start hearing the quiet sounds you once ignored. The world doesn't change, but the way you see it does. You no longer feel trapped inside your own thoughts. You begin to notice how thoughts appear and disappear on their own. You see that you don't need to hold them. You don't need to fight them either. They come and go like waves, but you remain the ocean beneath. This is what freedom feels like. Not the absence of problems, but the absence of resistance. You can face anything without creating extra pain. You let each experience move through you instead of getting stuck in it. Alan Watts often said that life is like music. You don't listen to a song to get to the end. You listen to enjoy each note. The same is true for living. You don't live to reach a final destination, you live to experience each moment fully. When you understand this, every simple thing becomes sacred. A walk becomes meditation. A conversation becomes connection. Even silence becomes beautiful. You no longer chase meaning, you create it by being present. And the best part is, you stop waiting to become someone else. You stop believing that happiness is somewhere far ahead. You realize it's already here, in this breath, in this heartbeat. You may still fall into old patterns sometimes. You may still doubt yourself. That's okay. Awareness doesn't mean perfection. It means remembering again and again that you were never broken to begin with. The more you remember, the faster you return to peace. Each time you stop judging, the noise fades a little more. Each time you let go of self-fixing, your natural state reveals itself. Calm, clear, whole. This is the quiet truth behind all the noise of self-help. You don't need to build yourself. You need to notice what's already here. Every attempt to fix yourself was only hiding your true nature. So pause for a moment. Take a breath. Feel your chest rise and fall. This breath doesn't need your control. It happens naturally, like everything else in existence. You are part of that same effortless movement. You were never separate from it. You were never less than it. Alan Watts called this realization waking up, not to a new life, but to the life that has always been here, unfolding on its own, perfectly imperfect. And in that awakening, something beautiful happens. You stop being at war with yourself. You stop demanding change from the world. You simply participate in the dance of existence, knowing there's nothing to fix. The mirror that once showed a broken image now reflects something whole. You see yourself as you truly are, an expression of life, not a project under repair. You start to smile more, not because everything is perfect, but because you finally understand that it doesn't have to be. You are not the problem. You never were. You are life, experiencing itself, learning to see clearly again. So stop trying to fix yourself. Stop searching for what isn't lost. Let the world be as it is. Let yourself be as you are. Because you were never broken. You were always becoming.